Hello, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, will you please welcome to the NASIO 2021 Midyear, your NASIO President, Dennis Goulet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NASIO 2021 Midyear Conference. I'm Dennis Goulet, NASIO President and Commissioner for the great state of New Hampshire. Live free or die. So much has changed since we were together in October for the annual conference that we are still gathering online. The nation is in a new phase filled with hope and forward motion. The pandemic response has been complex and required innovation and perseverance from nearly every industry. That includes state government and its partners. Between public health communications, dashboards, vaccine registrations, increased digital services, and supporting remote workforces, CIO offices played an important role. The private sector helped support these efforts and responded quickly, demonstrating true partnership. I'm proud of this community and all that was accomplished this past year on behalf of the citizens of all of our states. I, along with the entire NASIO Executive Committee, want to thank each of you for making the NASIO community so strong. As of Monday, we had almost 700 registrants. That includes representatives from 49 states and 2 territories with 45 state CIOs attending. I'm looking forward to the next 3 days where we can highlight the great work occurring in the states and begin to look forward to what a new normal might bring. Thank you all. Thank you to all the mid-year sponsors for support of this event and the exchange of information it allows. Make sure you visit their profiles in the conference hub and take advantage of the wonderful resources provided. A special thank you is in order to the mid-year platinum sponsors, Deloitte, Fortinet, and Genesis. We'll hear from them each afternoon for a welcome, and all will participate in the opening session today. Based on member feedback, each day of the conference will be roughly 2.5 hours in content. Sessions are grouped by the daily themes: lead, collaborate, and inspire. Today, all sessions are focused on leadership. Thank you to the lead daily content sponsors, Boomi, Payit, and Tanium. There are lots of ways to engage during the sessions, as well as outside of the conference hours. Make sure you explore the conference hub for networking and engagement opportunities. Visit the community notes section where we're crowdsourcing words of wisdom and resources from all attendees. Also check out the game Feats of Strength, where you'll unlock codes to earn points on the leaderboard. Some great prizes are up for grabs. All details are in the hub under the game rules. Another new feature is the virtual hallway group chats. The small group video chats are inspired by the ad hoc conversations that happen in the hallways of in-person events. Each chat can hold up to 13 people, and most are self-guided, meaning no moderator or formal agenda. Just a space to say hello and check in with your colleagues. Chat rooms are open all day, but there are specific times in the agenda when they will be most highly attended. Choose from CIO priorities, current issues, or networking. Like all mid-year components, the virtual hallway is found in the conference hub. If you've been to an NASIO event, you know we enjoy audience polling. I recommend keeping the conference hub open during the sessions so you can toggle back to the polling section, or keep your phone handy and answer polls through the NASIO app. If you're not connected via web and mobile, check out the NASIO website for how to do so. The first polling question is a nice warm-up question. From where are you joining the conference? Wow, so far, everybody's at home. Well, there we go. Some folks in the office. Well, I can see. Oh, there we go. We're crawling up there on the office participants, but most everybody's at home. Well, that correlates very closely with a poll we did yesterday on the state member day. We're talking about workforce and whether folks will be going hybrid or transitioning back, and that correlates pretty closely with what we heard from the state members as a group yesterday. Now I have another question for you. This will be interesting leading into our opening session. Which priority received the most investment during the pandemic? Cybersecurity, networking and infrastructure, collaboration tools, or cloud services? We're seeing some good movement there. I had trouble myself on this question, choosing between cloud services and collaboration tools because it was very close. It looks like we've got the collaboration tools really taking the lead now on that. And not surprisingly, that was a major investment in my state as well. You may remember we were scheduled to be in the DC area for the mid-year conference this year. Though we're not able to be there, the programs committee still wanted to support the area through the Give Back program. This program collects donations for a local organization as our way of thanking the host city. The recipient this year is Girls in Technology. The group produced a video to tell us more about their work.
Hello, I'm Kathy Hanrahan, Chair of Girls in Technology, or GIT. We're all aware of the growth opportunities for women in STEM fields, but there are a lot of off-ramps that girls can take on the road to a STEM career. And not all of them have resources to help keep them on track. This is the gap that Girls in Technology helps to fill. We expose local girls in grades 6 through 12 to successful female role models to see what STEM careers are like. So girls see that people that look like them can be successful. Confident role models who describe their own experiences and challenges and how they overcame them help students to see struggle as a normal part of the learning process. And we help educate girls on soft skills for success, no matter what path they choose. GIT is based in the Washington, D.C. metro area and is supported by Women in Technology, or WIT, and through grants like STEM for Her, a nonprofit foundation. And generous donors like you help us provide needed financial support to underserved girls.
Greetings. My name is Shelley Brown Phillips, and I have the honor and the pleasure of being the Vice Chair of Girls in Technology. The overall Girls in Technology program, fondly known as GIT, includes a number of thoughtful, intentional, and inclusive programs in support of our mission. The Mentor Protege program exposes high school girls to STEM speakers and panelists that have deep experiences in the STEM fields. It also allows the girls to form cohorts of high school girls that have similar interests in STEM. They have an opportunity to talk about embracing fear, learning to fail, and how they can, as leaders, inspire others. Our Sharing Our Success program targets middle school and high school girls. When on site, they have hands-on opportunities to experience STEM, whether that's coding or science projects. We also have a Cyber Patriots program. Through that program, we fund girls to stand up teams of Cyber Patriots, where they then compete in the United States Air Force Cyber Patriots competition.
In September of this year, I founded a Cyber Patriots team called the Air Force Ones. This team consists of students from Benjamin Banneker High School, which is a Title I school in Washington, D.C. In December 2020, the Air Force Ones were recipients of an $11,000 grant from Women in Technology and Girls in Technology. The season was challenging, but we had fun and learned a lot through our participation in 3 rounds of the Cyber Patriots competition.
We also host what's known as STEM Track. It's a series of workshops that we conduct at the University of Maryland to expose the girls to cyber activities. Finally, we also have a scholarship program. Through that program, we award funding for girls for higher education towards college or trade school. We're proud to say that some of our girls through the higher education scholarships have attended UVA, Virginia Tech, Stanford University, and George Washington University. Some of our STEM experiences included taking online coding classes, as well as building desks as part of their architectural journey.
This program is such an amazing opportunity to meet and network with other like-minded girls and mentors who have such amazing experiences and stories and just advice that they've gained over, their careers. And it's truly made such a difference in my own college and high school career, as well as all my future endeavors.
We're very proud of our Gate girls.
We would be honored to have you support our mission and help us expand our reach and support, especially to the underserved girls in our community.
Girls in Technology is certainly making a difference in the lives of girls and young women. If you'd like to donate, you can do so via the Conference Hub. Thank you to the Give Back sponsors for their support of the program. Sponsors provided a monetary gift to the Girls in Technology and helped cover the processing fees for attendee donations. I'd now like to introduce Megan Sullivan, a principal in Deloitte Consulting's Government and Public Services Practices. Deloitte is one of the Midyear Platinum sponsors, and Megan will share some remarks with the group. Welcome, Megan, and thank you, Deloitte, for your support.
Thanks, Dennis. Welcome to the NASIO 2021 Virtual Midyear Conference. My name is Megan Sullivan. I lead Deloitte's Strategy and Growth offering for Cloud for our Government and Public Services practice. On behalf of Deloitte and our 15,000 professionals working with you and your teams across the nation in 48 states, I wish to express our deep appreciation to the state members and NASIO for your tireless efforts during the pandemic. You rallied and rose to the occasion to ensure your states maintain the critical services that citizens depend on. And I know my corporate member colleagues share our view that it was a privilege to work alongside you in this unprecedented time as you scaled and innovated at the speed of light. The power of partnership was on display as the NASIO community came together to sustain operations and create new services and greater levels of automation. And to the NASIO team, you should be very proud of this community, which has been sustained by your leadership for more than 50 years through good times and bad times. We are both grateful and honored to be associated with you and this organization. Perhaps like you, I find myself living in the cloud a lot more these days, both in my personal and professional life. Going from a schedule where I was often traveling to 2 cities a week to one where the most pressing daily scheduling challenge was figuring out when I could take my dog for her afternoon walk. It's been quite a change, but fortunately Deloitte's systems were ready to support the logistics of this virtual working environment, largely due to the cloud. But also over the last 14 months, Deloitte has partnered with many of you at this conference to move your cloud first and cloud smart strategies from concept to reality. Without the cloud, the ability to respond with the scale and speed needed during this current crisis would not have been possible. But the pandemic also changed digital from a nice to have to a must have for the government. To meet the surge in service demand while operating virtually, governments around the world, including your states, accelerated their digital journey along 3 major dimensions: scaling digital infrastructure, creating a more digitally savvy workforce, and investing in citizen connectivity. We have seen government agencies double down on their mission to provide personalized, proactive, and frictionless services to the citizens. To fully realize this mission, government also raised the bar on their role as a cognitive system that uses hindsight, real-time data, and foresight to drive policy and decision-making. AI, along with other cloud-based technologies, help governments re-architect the mechanics of work and how citizens are served. According to a 2020 NASIO report, nearly 3/4 of US states deployed chatbots to assist with questions pertaining to COVID-19, unemployment insurance, and other agency services that received unusually high traffic during the pandemic. As an example, last year, we helped one state agency deploy cloud-based bots in a matter of weeks that answered questions and provided case assistance for more than 150,000 citizens, which in turn saved 12,500 staff person hours that were able to be reallocated to high-value tasks. To be sure, though, the private sector felt the pain of the pandemic as well, having to pivot its ability to connect with our clients and our own workforce. That's a perfect transition to introduce today's panel, Perspectives from the Private Sector. The private sector leaders you'll hear from today will share their experiences and how their respective organizations adapted and moved from react to thrive. With that, I'll now hand it over to Nelson Moe to get us started.
Again, thank you for that. And I'm really been looking forward to this panel and for private sector perspectives. And I want to welcome everybody to it. Yeah, I've been really excited to talk to our and have you talk to our three panelists, and I'll introduce them here and we'll get going. The first one is Jason Salzetti. He's the principal for government and public services from Deloitte. Our second one is Jim Richburg. He's the chief information security officer for Fortinet. And the third is Pranab Sinha, the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer from Genesys. You know, I'm really looking forward to talking to you three gentlemen, and I'm sure our audience is really looking forward to listening to you. But what I'd like to do now after the introduction is have each of you talk a little about yourself and your company. And if I could, Jason, why don't you go first, and I'll go to Jim and then Pranab.
All right, thanks, Nelson. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jason Salzetti. I lead our state and local government higher education practice within Deloitte, and have the pleasure of looking after thousands of folks who serve all of you, our state government clients. So real pleasure to be here today. My background's in digital transformation and large-scale technology implementation projects, and have been doing that for a little over 25 years here at Deloitte, in the last 11 or 12 years focused on government. I also have another role that I sit on the Deloitte, our US Board of Directors. So I'm hoping to share some of the perspectives from both roles I play at Deloitte as we go through the panel today, and talk to you about our perspectives on how we managed our way and continue to manage our way through the pandemic.
Excellent, Jason. Thank you very much. Okay, Jim, as a Chief Information Security Officer, I'm sure you have a unique perspective. So why don't you tell us a little about yourself and your company?
Okay, well, thank you, Nelson. Well, first, I'm actually the Field Chief Information Security Officer for the public sector at Fortinet.
Okay.
Fortinet is actually a large enough company that we have both a corporate CISO and then field CISOs who are focused on specific large major segments of the market. It made sense for them to bring me on to handle the public sector, since I came from a career in the public sector. I actually spent 33 years in the federal government, all of it in the intelligence community or working on helping to build and run big national cybersecurity programs. I spent much of that time as the senior executive in charge of cyber threat intelligence for the Director of National Intelligence. And frankly, I suspect in either my government job or now in my field CISO role, I've probably talked to many in this audience either about your state's cybersecurity or IT challenges, or about election security, which I've been involved in for 20 years. So, Nelson, when I retired from government, I knew that I wanted to continue to focus both on cybersecurity and to support the public sector, which indirectly explains how I ended up at Fortinet. They're one of the world's largest pure play cybersecurity companies. So if you're going to go someplace big enough to make a difference. they actually demonstrate how industry has solved some of the problems of technology and scale with solutions that, I'll be honest, I was unaware of when I was building and running cyber programs for 2 presidents. You know, while we in government were busy doing our thing, the state of capability in commercial solutions evolved, and I wanted to help inform my former colleagues in government about what those capabilities were. Some vendors offer high performance, some vendors offer cost savings. Few manage to offer both, and Fortinet falls in that overlap of the Venn diagram. And this is a company that's got a breadth of capability across the attack surface, because we talk about one of the reasons cybersecurity is hard because of the growing attack surface. They're at the edge, the core, the cloud, esoteric stuff like deception and decoy technology, and even things like cameras and voice over IP phones that you go, how is that relevant? Well, it's part of the attack surface because of IoT. And it's all integrated because they grew these capabilities internally, so they share a common operating system. And I'll end where I started, threat intelligence. This is a company that's got twice the market share of anybody else, so they get anonymized telemetry on threat data from 6 million devices in 500,000 customer networks. And as an intelligence guy, you want to see actionable intelligence. And what this means is we can see something, we can assess its significance, we can not only block it where it's happening, we can inform everybody. And that warms the cockles of my heart as somebody who spent his career working on intelligence to support a broad audience.
Thanks, Jim. You bet. Pranab, tell us about your job as Vice President CIO of Genesys.
Hey, hello, good morning and good afternoon. I'm Pranab Sinha, the CIO at Genesys, and I'm responsible for all aspects of IT here at Genesys. In my prior roles, I have run IT for large manufacturing companies, semiconductor, and now software as a service enterprise. Genesys is the market leader in the contact center platform space, and we power organizations of all sizes to deliver AI-based, highly personalized experience for their customers on every channel, everywhere, anytime. So, purely from IT perspective, we have defined a set of priorities this year, and there are 5 things that I'm personally focused on, starting with number 1 is the workplace of the future. Number 2, cybersecurity, never a dull moment in that area, so that continues to be, another front and center for us. The third one is around digitization of our ecosystem. 4th is around data, and how do we make sure we meaningfully drive insights out of the data that we collect. And the last one is talent. So those are the top priorities for me, and we are looking forward to the post-pandemic era.
Okay, good. Thank you again for all those things. I'd like to go through a set of round robin questions I'll ask each of you, and the same question then get your perspectives of this thing, because it's important. I know that while you guys have different goals from the government entities, you often face similar challenges. We would like to get your perspective and how you're moving forward. My first question, and I'll start with Jason if I could, is what is the future of your workforce and what issues do you see there? What is the future of your workforce and issues you see there, Jason?
Yeah, Nelson, well, I think that's the question everyone's asking, including our workforce today. So, and all of yours. We do a lot of polling, both internally of our staff, all of our professionals. We have over 120,000 people in the U.S. And in India, and so we get a pretty good sample set there. But we also poll our clients, and I think what we're hearing from them is the word of this point in the pandemic, I guess, which is hybrid. So everybody's planning on some return to workplaces with a lot more flexibility than what we saw in the past. Now, the vast majority of our workforce was virtual or working outside the office, because most of us were working in your facilities or our facilities purpose built for serving all of you. So we had a leg up when the pandemic hit, because we were used to having everybody outside the office. Now, with many of you being in a virtual first mode, and many of our clients across other industry sectors as well, we're trying to figure out what's that right balance of remote work, work on site, and how do you deal with things like culture building, like training, job descriptions and so forth. So there's a lot of different elements, and we can get into that further on in the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So Jim, could you build on that, the workforce and issues? I mean, Jim, could you build on that? Pardon me, Jason mentioned a hybrid and culture, but I'd like to get your company's perspective, Jim, if you could.
So in one sense, it closely mirrors what Jason described. We were already an organization that, unless you were at our Silicon Valley headquarters or our Canadian research hub, you worked remotely before COVID. So it's more interesting to see how are we supporting our customers. And again, it's helping them figure out, we all made the pivot, IT and security, to supporting remote telework by almost all of our organizations at scale. The reality is we cut corners in the process. So now's the time to go back and look at that and say, with hybrid being the rule of the day for virtually all these organizations, what do we need to go back and take a look at it and say, this was good enough to do when you had to do it to get moving, it's not good enough to sustain it. We've been doing a lot on training and development. We've got what is actually one of the largest programs in industry that starts with basic cybersecurity education and hygiene, and then goes down to how to use specific hardware, because with COVID, we saw people who needed reskilling, upskilling. We talk about the 3 million plus shortage in cybersecurity. This was an opportunity to say, here's a free program. Academia can use it. People who are stuck at home can use it. It's a way of helping people and organizations prepare for coming out of this pivot to the new hybrid.
Thank you, Jim. All right, Pranab, I know this is near and dear to your heart, the workforce thing, and we talked about already hybrid approach, culture, and training. Can you help us build on top of this particular really important topic, Pranab?
Yeah, Nelson, I mean, this is really front and center in most of CIO's mind. And if you really look back a year, in March 2020, we used to be 60 remote offices to 5,000 remote offices. Everybody started working from home. And this has deep implications on how infrastructure was deployed, how we viewed security, things like employee engagement. How do we collaborate in this environment? Completely changed. And what we see is, as things start to open, I believe the new normal or the next normal, whatever we want to call it, is quite different. How the work is done, how the workplace of the future is starting to look is quite different from pre-COVID days. I mean, brick and mortar is here to stay. They'll still be important, but workforce will highly be distributed, especially in our environment. And then the other piece related to that is talent is not going to be very dense in areas where you used to have physical office. It's going to be very distributed. That gives us an opportunity to tap into a much wider set of talent that's dispersed across geographies. The other piece we see is, in this entire model, the employee engagement and collaboration becomes very paramount, highly, highly important. I mean, there are no more hallway conversations and the brainstorming sessions and the whiteboarding that used to be there. That is all changing. And what is happening now is the collaboration technologies of the past are not going to be sufficient for the future. So we are going to see new collaboration technologies emerge. We are starting to test some of those ourselves with our vendor partners. And I think the important thing would be the employee engagement. How do you keep that employee engaged? How do you address that Zoom fatigue where people are working nonstop? And so all that has to be thought through. And we are working through this. I think it's going to be a very interesting time. But I think the companies are resilient, and we will get through this. And in this new normal or next normal, I think companies are going to be very, very productive in this model.
Okay. Well, thank you. So that was, I think, a really good answer to that first question. I'd like to shift to the second one. And the second one deals with the challenges and opportunities for the continued digitization and automation in IT. The challenges and opportunities going forward of digitization and automation of IT. And I'd like to start with Jason, the same kind of process here. So Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, Nelson, I think, as the pandemic, hit all of us and literally caused everyone to shut down physical operations or on-site operations overnight, the instant answer was, hey, how do we turn all this, into a digital channel, an online channel? And that's both with your employees as well as all of your stakeholder groups. So getting rid of the paper requires really rethinking processes, right? We all turn to the tech pretty quickly, and a lot of us have that background, and that sometimes is the more straightforward part, especially as we've seen the advent of so many incredible cloud-based solutions that Megan talked about in her opening. It's really, though, how do you rethink processes end to end with a user-centered design, human-centered design? So, we've had to think about that and how we, interact, deploy, hire, retain our employees in that whole life cycle, as well as, how we serve our clients. So Pranav mentioned the collaboration tools. I mean, it's that, while the market seems to be saturated with tools, I think there's, another generation that will likely be born out of the need for sustaining this virtual work environment, trying to make collaboration even more effective. So I would just say you've got to look at it end to end and really rethink the process and operations side along with the tech.
Thank you, Jason. So end to end and rethink processes. So Jim, same question. So challenges and opportunities going forward in automation of IT and digitization. Jason mentioned end to end. Can you help us build on that?
Yeah, so IT and security thrive when the partnership is really organic. The challenge is it's easier to measure your success on IT. Did I do the connectivity? Did I provide the platforms? Than it is your effectiveness on providing the security. And I think going forward, we're going to see increasing convergence of networking and security. We all talk about how do we support the new hybrid offices. They're going to be in different places. We may have hoteling instead of dedicated desks. It's pushing us in the direction of things like software-defined networking, accelerating this migration to the cloud. And that means you're going to be trying to establish and secure access and use of data regardless of location, regardless of the location of the data, the compute resource, or the user. And that really means IT and security are going to have to be partnering and doing it. And AI and machine learning have been used for a decade now in cybersecurity, and it's starting to reach critical mass across that field where I think it's going to transform our ability to secure enterprises. So I'm actually optimistic in the sense of saying that the continued digitization and automation of IT, coupled with something like the increasing power of AI and ML, is, I think, going to be a game changer.
Okay, good. Thanks, Jim. So you've heard from Jason, you've heard from Jim. Pranab, can you talk about your thoughts on these opportunities for IT and going forward?
Yeah, so, first of all, there is never a better time to be in IT. I mean, the whole pace of digitization and automation of IT is starting to accelerate, and the opportunity it creates for IT professionals is immense. I mean, besides that, we are seeing that companies are starting to deploy automation to really reduce the friction in the processes. It's all about speed and automating things that are more repetitive in nature. The other thing we are seeing is cloud is given. I mean, it's not if, it's really about when and how fast. So that's the other piece. The other thing that is really, really important and starting to take shape, and we are probably in the first inning of that, and you heard a little bit from Jim and Jason both, is around the whole concept of AI and machine learning. This is going to be the key aspect embedded in every software. We are just scratching the surface. These things will continue to get deeply embedded in applications. And this is something that you're not going to view as something in the side. So what we are seeing is, for example, your help desk, which we are traditionally very human-based, are starting to become more and more self-service. And it's not just about deflecting the tickets or making sure that, a bot responds to your question, but also how do you auto-resolve those problems? And this is where the machine learning and the deep learning comes into play. So I think there is an immense opportunity. We will continue to see a whole pervasive implementation of these AI and ML machine learning in software as we go forward along. And then the other piece is around the whole robotic process automation, which is going to be much, much, much more smarter and could do a lot more than what we are using today. The other area that is very closely correlated with the concept of AI, machine learning, robotics is data. I mean, you cannot have a very strong AI model if you don't have a really working data model. So data is going to be continuing to become front and center. And the idea is, how do you leverage the data assets to drive more intelligence in the enterprise? From the challenges perspective, I think the biggest challenge is talent. Talent is an issue. Talent is going to be an issue. And this is going to be the biggest bottleneck to support the accelerated pace of change. And we have to find creative ways to really groom talents and support the institutions, colleges, kids in the STEM area, because that's going to be the next frontier of I would say, the bottleneck.
Thank you, Pranab. All good answers for that question. Really, really deep thinking on that one. So I'd like to go to the next round robin question, if that's okay. And it is, I'm going to start again with Jason. So how is the multi-cloud environment that's available today, how is that changing your company's focus on and priorities? So Jason, the multi-cloud environment, that's available for different cloud providers, how's that changing your focus and your priorities?
Well, Nelson, I got to be a little careful here. I'm sure most of them are on the line, but they're all great.
You could be generic and just say the multi-cloud environment. You don't have to pick a winner. Just I'd like them all.
No, I'm not going to fall into that trap for sure. We've got incredible alliances with all the major cloud providers, and what it means for us as an organization. We're in the process of globally moving all of Deloitte's IT assets. We got a number of them, are pretty significant amount already in the cloud in the US, but we're looking at how do we unite our global IT infrastructure in the cloud, and that requires a multi-cloud environment. The various vendors in this space bring different strengths to the equation, and as we work through various regulatory requirements inside the US, various expectations of different development environments and tools, and Pranab was talking about AI and ML. All the cloud providers have their own cloud native capabilities that we look to say what are those, what are the highest and best use of those for our clients and the problems we're trying to solve for them. So it's something where, frankly, getting into the cloud brokerage business and trying to play that role of, being able to select the best fit for purpose is a reality. There's not, I don't think a single environment is possible.
Well, that's good. Okay, Jason, so I heard cloud options, as I heard from that. And so Jim, could you build on what Jason was mentioning in the multi-cloud environment? You don't have to be specific and pick a winner, but in general, okay?
Well, so Fortinet, of course, is a security company. So I'm going to give you the security focused view on this. Okay. I suspect everybody who's on this webinar understands the shared security responsibility model for operating in the cloud. And even if you as a customer have said, I want to go with a managed provider, I want to go with a high-end package where they take on as much of that responsibility, the challenge, as you said in the question, Nelson, comes down to multi-cloud environments, because most large organizations have relationships in multiple clouds, and they may have a private cloud, and they have legacy on-prem hardware, and they, so they're in a half a dozen or more different operating environments. The challenge comes when you have different capabilities presenting themselves from a security perspective in these different cloud environments. You end up with inconsistency of control and protection. Inconsistency becomes gap becomes vulnerability, and that's what the adversary finds and exploits. So finding a way to say we can provide homogeneity, we can say, fine. Now, the risk is if you get it wrong everywhere. But by simplifying the problem, so you only focus on it one place, figure out what your security should look like, and then instantiate that in all these different environments. The second part of cloud is secure access service edge. It becomes a wonderful delivery vehicle for saying, I can secure the data at the edge of the cloud and beyond. So even we get back to new normal, we're all traveling, we're even working off net, I can still provide that same level of security by saying, and then when you reconnect to the network and the cloud, I validate what you did off cloud. So it's a combination of multi-cloud security and SASE.
Thank you, Jim. So what I got of that was basically make sure you mind the gaps. And from Jason, it was make sure you use the best use. So based on that, Pranab, can you help us bring us home on the multi-cloud environments and what Genesys thinks about them?
Yeah, so good question here, Nelson. So for us, I would answer it in two ways. One is, as a product company, multi-cloud is front and center within our product strategy. Our leading products are built to support a multi-cloud model that can run on any mainstream public cloud or even a private cloud. So now turning that towards the IT organization, I think, for us and for anybody else, multi-cloud needs to be on the strategy and technology roadmap. And there are two elements to that. Number one is an architecture that truly supports a native cloud construct. And so you have to look at the base architecture. And then we are doing a lot of that work. It's starting with the base architecture and what does it look like? What does the roadmap look like over next X number of years? Okay. And once you have the architecture nailed, you build your systems that are really cloud agnostic. And that'll give you a lot more flexibility around being able to move your workloads between private clouds, between public clouds, or between private and public cloud, whatever works for you all. So that's how I would characterize this, Nelson.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much. That's the third, but I have one more round robin question and then we'll go into directed questions for you guys. But the last round robin question has to do with cybersecurity and working on the shift from work from home to after the pandemic. So the question is, and we'll start again with Jason, is how have the recent operational technology and ransomware attacks and cyber attacks and the shift to work from home, that whole thing, how has that changed our company's perspectives and priorities? So OT, ransomware, and the shift from work from home, a lot of unpack there, but they basically changed environment. So it's a cyber aspect and working from home. We talked about it earlier, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that. How has that changed? Jason?
Yeah, Nelson, I mean, we have a very large practice that works on cyber from all different aspects for our clients, and frankly, that practice supports us internally. And so we already had what I would consider the basics, VPN, multi-factor authentication, encryption on our laptops and so forth in place. But where it really shifted, frankly, was connectivity with our clients. And having to plan and manage for pretty significant increases in VPN capacity, remote access capacity. So that was the biggest impact. But as Jim and Pranab have highlighted previously, I mean, the focus on this topic, can't be overstated. I mean, it's just been significant additional resources to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our assets.
Thank you, Jason. All right, Jim, I know you're going to be all over this one, so I got to keep you under a couple of minutes here. So, but bear, because we have 10 minutes left in the panel. I want to get some directed questions, but obviously OT, ransomware, and shift from work from home. Any more thoughts on that?
They actually intersect because we all made the pivot. We did, as Jason said, we gave you multi-factor authentication. We give you a lovely VPN back to the office. And then we were essentially treating you as if you were in the office. But the reality is you were working from a small office, home office environment that did not have enterprise-grade security. The second half of last year, the actors noticed that 700% increase in ransomware that came in through the endpoint. So this points to, we got to get beyond just endpoint detection to response. You've got to be able to say, I have my playbook, I can stop the stuff as it happens. There's also the human firewall. Organizations get ransomware through user interaction, the spear phishing. So part of this comes down to that classic training. This also means you got to move remote beyond simply saying two-factor authentication, secure connection home, zero trust where you're not only validating the device, you're looking dynamically, you're saying, is Nelson doing what Nelson typically does? And is Nelson doing something that now matches the characteristics of bad? So yeah, it's the two intersect. They are a real problem. It's a combination of technology and behavior that's part of the solution.
Thank you. That's very, very well thought out. All right. Pranab, last for you, OT, ransomware, and shift from work from home. Obviously, workforce development for your workforce thing is important, but give us your last thoughts. Give us your thoughts on this last round, Robin.
Yeah, so I think Jim and Jason covered it really well. Few things I'd like to add. So first of all, as you look at this whole new model, you got to make sure your core security architecture is really rock solid. And that's one thing we have been focused on with the concept and the principle of this whole zero trust model. One of the other things that's really important for us, and I have done that quite a bit, is get your basics right. Get the core cyber hygiene in place. We can talk about all sorts of tools and technology, but what happens is a lot of companies miss on the basic things. So focus on some basic things, your architecture, you're making sure you're patching your servers, making sure you have right hygiene around email and phishing and all that, training, continuous training. So those are some of the basic things we have really done well. And then you start to look at what are the corner cases, what are the gaps, what are the white spaces, and start to fill those. So that's the approach that we have taken. Looks pretty good. And then the employee education. I think both Jason and Jim hit on. We have to do that, and we continue to do that.
Okay. Well, good. That ends our round robin session of it. I'm going to move on to the one-on-one questions now. Each of you, I've teed up a question for you, so there shouldn't be too much of a surprise. So bear with me. But the first one's for Jason, and that one's for Deloitte. As Deloitte's state and local government leader, how did you pivot your leadership style to best serve your clients during the daily uncertainty of the pandemic?
Yeah, Nelson, it was, I mean, if you think about 14 months back, 15 months back, I went from traveling, 3-4 days a week, hitting a couple state capitals in a week, and being, on site, hands-on, big team meetings to at home. And that was pretty uncomfortable. You start to feel pretty isolated pretty quickly. So, I thought about, hey, we got to get the team together. We got to at least get our leaders together. We've got about 150, 200 partners and managing directors that lead our accounts, lead our projects. And so I started holding daily stand-up calls with that team. And what that did was it allowed real-time communication in both directions. So I was telling them what I had learned and what I'd figured out, and they were telling me what they were hearing and what they were sorting through. And it ironically, although we were physically separated, I feel like our level of connection and communication went up. And frankly, it enabled us to respond in real time to a lot of the needs in the market to serve all of our clients better, because we could share very quickly, almost instantaneously, hey, we're seeing this in Virginia. Are you seeing this in Texas or California or somewhere in between? And that type of communication has been invaluable, and we've continued it through today.
All good. Thank you, Jason. So I'd like to do my next question for Pranab, a little bit of a switch up here. So, because I want to close on cybersecurity, and that will be the good one here for Jim. So Pranab, what are you seeing? Because I'm kind of interested in Pranab's answer. Why are you seeing the role of the CIO changing and evolving? Okay. Yeah, we got plenty of time, so I'll get a little time for Jim. So yeah, so I need to see the role of the CIO change, because there are a lot of CIOs in this call. Like, here, hey, how's my job going to change? So give us a good answer here.
No, that's a great question. I mean, I joke with my colleagues. I say, if as a CIO, if you're just in the business of running IT, you're in the wrong business. The whole role of CIOs have evolved significantly over the last several years. What used to be just the back engine room operators, CIO roles are not just managing the information assets anymore, but leading the digital transformation for enterprises. That's where the value starts to come together. I mean, today's modern CIO and the evolving role of CIO, CIOs are not just chief information officer, they are chief integration officer. They integrate all parts of business processes through systems across the enterprise. They are chief innovation officer. They have an eye on what's upcoming. How do we bring technology at the right time in the right place? So really a multifaceted role now is evolving for CIOs. And the other thing is CIOs have a very unique perspective. They are one of the few organizations, one of the few members at the C-level who have deep insights into all parts of the company, whether it's the sales motion, whether it's the commercialization of business construct, whether it's the post-sales customer service model, whether it's the financial processes, and how the data traverses to those financial processes. I mean, this is a very unique set of point of view that they bring to the table. And that broad knowledge is helping digitize the business processes and take the friction out of those processes. I think the other piece is CIOs evolving role is keeping an eye on the innovation. There is so much innovation, so much change going on. And you have to take the noise out of the system and really bring the right kinds of technology at the right time to support the organization, whatever you are. And last, but most importantly, is really keeping the enterprise assets safe. I mean, in this world, day and age, cybersecurity is important, and I'm sure Jim will have a lot more insight into that. But in summary, Nelson, it's much different role, and this continues to evolve.
Okay, good. Thank you, Pranab. So we have some time here at the end for Jim to close us out. And I'd like you to close us out with what major trends in threat activity do you see that you'd like to make us aware of? Take us home, Jim.
Nelson, we've talked a lot in our round robin about the hybrid operating environment and what the new normal is going to look like that isn't the status quo ante. And the unfortunate reality is the bad guys innovated over the last year and a half also. And we've seen a hybridization of threat activity along with an expansion of the size and complexity of the attack surface. So let me give you 5 different examples of the hybridization of what we're seeing. We're seeing multi-vector attacks. We're seeing denial of service that is the noisy distraction for a coordinated spear phishing campaign, hoping you're going to take your eye off the ball as a network defender while you're dealing with the DOS and miss spear phishing. We're seeing multi-impact malware. Ransomware that's combined with the threat of doxing. I'm going to publish some of your data online and then I'm going to hit you with denial of service. I'm ramping up the incentive to make you pay. We're seeing multi-purpose code. When I penetrate your machine, I can co-opt it and use it as part of a botnet, or if cryptocurrency, which of course ebbs and flows, happens to be high, I'm going to use that penetration for crypto mining with the same code installed. Literally, they can flip back and forth in what they use it for. We're seeing actual hybrid code where malicious, it's best of breed because they compare notes and say, so this package has got a really elegant way to penetrate the victim. This one's got a really good way to expand laterally in the target network. This one's got a really sneaky way to exfiltrate. I'm going to cut and paste and make a recombinant piece of code, best of breed. And finally, artificial intelligence and machine learning. It doesn't just help the good guys. The bad guys are starting to use it as well. We've talked about spear phishing, the vector for ransomware, the vector for other things. Get smart, don't click on it. There's open source content generation packages out there that from a small sample of code can generate content that even AI experts can't tell doesn't come from you. So the new intruder is not just going to take your address book and your credentials, they're going to take your inbox and outbox. So the new stuff goes to everybody in your inbox, in your address book, tailored in cadence and syntax and content to what you talk to them about. That's going to be a whole lot harder for us to detect.
Wow, that's really scary, Jim. Thanks. Well, thanks for that question. Those are the directed ones. I'm going to look at my proctor here and see if there's any. Do I have any time for questions from the attendees? So. Should I have time? I'm just looking at my chat box here. We should end. Okay, I got it. I guess we're going to go ahead and close our panel. And I want to thank all of you for attending, Jason, Jim, and Pranab, and for helping us out here and all the attendees. It really was a lot of fun hearing your answers. We're sorry we didn't get to the questions from the attendees in the chat, but I think we got a lot of content out of you three. And so thank you again. So I'll turn this back over to I think it goes back to Dennis, and thank you again.
Well, I'd like to, first of all, thank the panelists. What a dedicated and experienced panel, and it really came through as you spoke about your experiences, and I could a lot of what you were speaking of will resonate with myself and I know my peers around the country, particularly the comments around workforce and the various issues, and then the wrap-up questions I thought were really fun. Hearing the perspective on the daily stand-up thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that as a really effective way to manage the distributed world and stay in touch. And then my heart was beating especially fast when we're talking about the role changes of CIOs to business leaders, because of course that's a lot of what we've been preaching for many years at NASCIO. And then the cyber complexity of our cyber risk environment that's just continues. We think we've begun to adapt to a new level of complexity, but it moves so fast that we're always moving. So Absolutely wonderful. Thank you all so much. We all appreciate it, and we appreciate your time. And now to help our minds shift from one session to the next, we're introducing brain breaks. We'll re-energize with a 5-minute creative or physical activity. Deloitte will close out this session of the program with a brain break we all need to do more of, chair stretches. At its conclusion, there's a 10-minute break where we hope to see you chatting with colleagues in the virtual hallway. The next session begins at 3 p.m. Those are the leadership lessons learned during a pandemic. These fast-paced Ignite-style sessions are always a crowd favorite. I hope you enjoy NASCIO's first ever brain break presented by Deloitte.
Hello everyone, my name is Jacqueline and I am here at Deloitte University to give you a quick ergonomic stretch break. So this should feel really good after sitting for a couple hours today. So if you can, go ahead and stand up for me and give a chair beside you. Just kind of push it to the side and we will use it in just a moment. But we're going to start with a really good cleansing breath. So raising your hands above your head, deep, deep, deep breath in. And exhale. Okay, let's do that one again. Inhale up. And exhale. So today we're going to focus on upper body ergonomics. And what I mean by that is throughout the day, our shoulders and upper body gets really weak from sitting in a chair all day. So you're on your computer and you're going to slightly go forward. So from the side, what that looks like is you're typing, your shoulders are going to slightly roll in over and over until you reset. So we are doing a reset right now. And hopefully this will help you throughout your whole career because it does get worse over time. So starting with our chest, what I want you to do is bring your arms right out to the sides and push them back. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and hold this. You should feel a nice stretch all the way through your chest muscles. Good, you can keep it right here, or if you want, you can take it right behind you, clasping your hands together, roll your shoulders to the back, and if you want to, gently lift up on your arms, you can get a little bit deeper of a stretch there. Nice. If you're not able to clasp your hands together, you can always use a towel, or just place them right on your lower back and open up your chest. Okay, so we're going to focus on the back now. So we're going to use our chair, so grab that. If you have a little bit of space behind it, great. Placing both hands on it, I want you to start flattening out your back. You may not be able to go that low, but I just want you to go until you feel a slight stretch. Dropping your head down. So you can hold it here, or if you want, just bring one arm down, let it hang. And what this is going to do is the arm that's on the chair, you're going to feel a little deeper of a stretch. You can go ahead and switch if you have that arm down. Okay, just let your opposite arm relax. Nice, both hands back on the chair and go ahead and stand up for me. Good, so we're going to focus now on the back side of our legs. They get very, very tight when you're seated, but we're actually going to sit down for this one. So grab your chair and just take a seat for me. This is a great one you can do at your desk when no one's even looking. So take one leg, cross it over the other, just right at the ankle. And then what I want you to do is sit up really nice and tall for me, and then lean forward. Good, you're going to feel this stretch on the leg that's on top, just kind of down the side of your hip. Nice. Just hold it right there. You may not have to lean forward very far, so just go to your comfort level. Good, and bring it back. Switching legs. Bringing the other leg across. Sitting up really tall again, and leaning forward. And I just want to mention, nothing we do in these stretches should be painful. It should just feel like a really nice stretch throughout the day. If there's pain, you're probably pushing too far. Good, and also making sure you're not rounding your back on these, you're hinging right at the hips. Nice. So sit up, we're going to do one last stretch, and this one's going to be a spinal twist. So taking one arm, placing it on the outside of your opposite knee, and then just turning slightly in your chair and looking toward the back. Good. Take a big inhale for me. Release that, and we're gonna switch sides. The opposite arm on your knee, and then twist the opposite way. And come back to the center. We're gonna take one last cleansing breath, so you can stay seated or stand up. Take an inhale up. We're gonna leave our hands up this time, clasp them together and push them up toward the ceiling. If you want, you can even lean slightly back to get a deeper stretch. Good. Come up and release. If possible, you want to do these stretches a couple times a day, especially after sitting for long periods of time. Just quick, simple stretches to open up your chest and the back side of your legs, and you will feel so much better. Thanks for joining me. Bye.